Welcome. This is Barry Jones from the Angel School, and we're here for our weekly angel reading for August the 12th through the 18th, 2019. So let's take a deep breath together and to just clear our minds and our hearts so that we can really enter this sacred space of abundance within the well-being of our soul. And really just allow yourself to be aware of any thoughts that are sort of coming up for you. Even maybe loved ones who have passed that you may feel that is with you at this time and supporting you and loving you. And be aware of your needs. Be aware of the things that it's really interesting that they're showing me, like, well, it sort of reminds me of my own mother, and but it's like someone who's just has a kitchen towel over their arm and maybe just finished cleaning up in the kitchen or something like that, and they keep showing me the symbol of a mushroom, which is for abundance. And I feel like symbolically, this could be literal for some of you, that you need to clear up some things, that you need to get some things in order to make room, to clear a path for your goals and your dreams, for projects that are important to you, things that you're passionate about right now. And the angels are asking you to do this because they're showing me a cross, which for me is about things that have been challenging for you, or things that have caused you to suffer in some way, or you've been suffering through an ordeal. And we have to remember to kind of not hang on to those things, that we need to, it's just sort of like if we were in the kitchen and you've done all this cooking, and sometimes you just feel really tired and you want to just say, I'm going to leave those dishes to the next day. But according to my mother, of course, this should never be done. And I guess in this regard, I feel like the message is that go ahead and take care of those things. Don't neglect sort of going ahead and dealing with things right then and there, because sometimes if you wait, they can just become more difficult to deal with later. And it's sort of a feeling I felt like just don't give up, to keep at it, to take your time, don't feel pressured, but it's that thing of taking care of something right then and there when you can. It's easier to do, and especially when it's something that's important to you, because the thing about it is when you come back the next morning, you feel even worse than if you were to take care of it right then, because now it's really, you're out of that space, you've kind of moved on, and you decide, okay, I'm just going to leave that, I'm going to move on. And I don't want this to be literal for, about dishes, because sometimes you just need sometimes maybe it's just that kind of thing where I just need to do this tomorrow. But I feel like this is symbolic in terms of relating to something that's really important to you. And dishes may not always be important to us to get them done, but the idea is that when you keep putting something off that's really on your mind, that's really in your heart, it's something that you know deep down you need to continue to nurture this project or this goal. And when you don't work on it, you just start to feel defeated. You start, really coming down on yourself. And the idea is that they want you to at least come up with a plan about how you're going to work on this, and to then at least take one action step, because that one action step will make you feel like you're accomplishing something. It'll make you feel successful before you actually achieve the manifestation of that success that you're wanting. So they want you to not just leave it for another day. Leave it for another day when you might get to it, that you might sit down and just come up with a plan. Even making the plan, which, we know plans can be broken, or things come along, but that you have one, it sets a guideline in your mind. We're talking about that power of yes and no, so that if things come up and you have this plan, and if that plan is really important to you, and if in that moment it feels like this other thing is a distraction, or it has become a new priority, an unexpected priority. And sometimes that unexpected priority has nothing to do with the thing that you've planned, and maybe it will never connect to it at all. And those things just happen. But if it's an unexpected priority that is an opportunity that you just hadn't thought of, that's connected to your plan, then you will have a greater sense of this if you have a plan. When you don't have an outline of a plan, then when things occur, you don't know what to say yes or no to. You don't know what is your goal. You don't know where your loyalties lie, so to speak. And so, you will find that a lot of distractions will just crop up. Now, this does not mean just because you have a plan that none will show up. Because if you are the kind of person who doesn't know how to relax, which that could be most of us watching, right? And not worry and not think about what could go wrong. So like planning is not to help you to focus your worry. And I think a lot of us do this. Like we plan to, how can we avoid all these problems? That's not the kind of planning that we're talking about here. This is the kind of planning where you're creating space and time for something that you truly love, something that you're passionate about, something that your soul, your heart is hearing the clarion call of your soul. This moment right now, your soul is saying, this is your purpose. And this, we need to create a plan of action around this. So it's like we're creating a path. So at least we have an idea of where we're going and how to recognize the progress and how to not allow ourselves to become discouraged completely. You're going to be discouraged. You're going to, experience failure. But because you have a plan, at least you know when you're kind of dumbfounded while you walk on that path, the path is there. And if you can't figure anything out in that moment, to keep moving on this path, to keep moving on this plan until something better occurs to you. And so in this regard, I just keep seeing the word messages. And I feel like what it's saying is that you will get more messages. You will get your intuition, your instincts will increase from this kind of planning. Not when we're planning to avoid the mistakes, but when we're planning to create space for our heart, to create space for our goals. And I'm seeing the word laws in that the laws of the universe will orchestrate through your intention of planning and draw to you more of the things, the signs, the messages, the opportunities, the possibilities. It's going to branch, this plan. It's not a rigid one road, but you'll get the insight of which roads to take in this branching, as this plan branches. I just saw ESP, which is saying that this is what kind of activates your ESP, your intuitive psychic abilities, when you've set a clear intention. This is what the main goal of this planning would be. And so when you get an idea or something comes to you, you feel that clarion call, don't say, okay, I'll think about this later on. It's like the dishes. You're in the kitchen. You're in the kitchen of your soul, and all of the possibilities, the abundance is just channeling through you in that moment. And take a moment to just sit down and map it out a little bit. Map out any of the ideas, because they're coming through you, and just jot them down. Jot them down. And then, because I know this to be true, very true, because I work in this kind of space a lot, is that sometimes if you don't just jot it down, and I'm going to go to another level and tell you why you need to maybe try to create an outline. Because I've found that as I'm just jotting down the ideas, that the vibration is so complete within my consciousness in terms of the experience of it, that I think that I've actually written out the details of what has occurred to me, and to look back at the notes, and it just looks like, random jibber jabber. And so I would take another moment to sort of come back into the present, come back to earth, so to speak, and then use some kind of structure, like step 1, step 2, and it's all possibilities. Or you put it in a 1 phase, 2 phase, 3 phase of whatever is coming to you. If only 1 phase is coming to you and the rest is just sort of random, okay, but at least you have that one. And that way you won't feel like, well, what was I thinking about? Because it won't seem, the next morning, it won't seem like such a sound idea. And that's what you want to avoid. If you don't, just go for that little extra level of creating some kind of structured map of what those ideas were indicating for you. And it means that you have to come and say to yourself, okay, now think logically, how could this work? How could I get from here to there? The ideas, when they keep coming, they keep just one out of the other, just keeps unfolding. It's like amazing. It's like a real high. We all know that part. But most of us, feel like, okay, you feel really good, and you say, oh, I got it. It's all in my head. I can see it. I know exactly what I'm going to do. Oh, I can't wait till tomorrow. And then you get up the next day, and your ego probably starts to just come up with all of these what ifs, and then you don't feel so smart about it, and you kind of feel let down in your heart because your ego has just criticized you, and you give into it, and you didn't have a concrete plan, so you could say, get out of the way, ego. I got this already mapped up. See, if you already have it somewhat mapped out, the ego can't really interfere that much. Don't say it will, but if you thought about it with your mind, your logical mind, this creative idea, and you made it sort of concrete in some way, then your ego can't mess with you. Okay, so just try not to give your ego opportunities to mess with you, is what we're saying here. Okay. And so, of course, I'll take this advice myself. And I'm seeing the Fool. So I'm seeing it, and what I'm actually seeing is his little bag that he carries, and it's just how I can tell it's the Fool. And so, it's this idea where we have these, well, first of all, I wonder what's inside that bag. It's so small, and he doesn't carry a lot. And it kind of shows us that we don't need a lot. So sometimes we think, when we get these big ideas, like the Fool, we have these big dreams. And what the Fool is reminding us is you don't need a lot, because a lot of it is inside of you. You don't need a lot to get started on the journey. And it's also indicating that you're going to gather a lot along the way. So why bog yourself down with excess? Just because all that extra stuff you think you need to have to get started, whether it's resources and, the right people and network and all this stuff, those things would weigh you down to where you are right now, not to where you want to go. You're going to make you're maybe going to have a new network of people, or a new network of opportunities, or a new network of resources, so a lot of the tools that you need are inside of you. Your passion, your plan, your outline, your conviction, and your imagination. So don't underestimate these. And we do this a lot. And this is another reason why we don't get things started, or they just fizzle out. They want you to know that you're safe. They're writing this word out right now. And so if you're in this phase where things are kind of cropping up for you, like, you're in this creative phase, and we're in this month of August, which would be the tarot card of the strength, the Leo, right? So you have all of this creativity, this inner resourcefulness is what's coming out for you in this month and in this period. I don't know why I'm seeing the word resentment. So, that came up when I was talking about how we just, can get let down sometimes. So don't hold on to those things. I think these are resentments about yourself. Like you tell yourself, well, you need this XYZ because you never are able to do this. You always back down, or something like you're never prepared, or you keep making mistakes. These kind of things, I just feel like is what this is about. Okay. So let's take a look at the Archangel Oracle card and see what the message is. Okay, so we have Archangel Azrael, and the card is Counselor. So the first thought that came to me was maybe, seeking out some kind of advisor, to help you to, or coach to kind of help you to get your ideas into a more concrete plan. And if you have trouble following through on your plans, that maybe you could pair up with a friend. Sometimes we find ourselves talking to someone who's in that same place that we're in, and so why not partner up and sort of keep each other motivated to stay on track. Now, Archangel Azrael is sort of like the archangel for spiritual counseling. And the card says you are a natural counselor and many people benefit from your guidance and reassurance. So if you've been getting a message about, working as a spiritual counselor or spiritual angel reader or something like this, or you've just been thinking about going into counseling or therapy, that this is a message that this idea of helping people, of service, is an area where you are more than capable. And you may be thinking about all the reasons that you are probably not ready or qualified to do this, and you need this and that next, etc. But investigate those ways where you can get the certification or training to do it. I mean, I think even just having a minister's license allows you to do a lot of those things. But again, be open to this. Let me just kind of tune in and see what additional information comes in. And also, Archangel Azrael, also in terms of grief counseling. So I was just sort of seeing the full moon coming up in this week, and in my meditations I kept seeing sort of like the moon card. I kept seeing the wolf and the dog, and the moon. And so before I began recording, I asked the Google Assistant to tell me, and it is this week on the 15th that we have a full moon. So we may, this may be a time where you need to kind of talk, where some things may be coming up for you, where you're healing and releasing some things. Maybe there's some energies that are going to be going to bring up some things emotionally for you. So be aware that you could have some emotional trials come up for you in this week, and that, don't be afraid to talk to someone. Or you may find that people come to you and need someone to talk to, need someone to kind of assist them. And you can call upon Archangel Azrael, and his light is sort of an eggshell white light, and you can call upon him and ask him to sort of surround you in this frequency, and you'll feel the comforting, soothing, sort of like, when you're, well, we shouldn't remember this, should we? But like a baby, when you remember drinking, a bottle of milk. I remember my grandmother would keep me while my mom was working, and she would warm up a bottle of milk, and it was just so soothing and comforting. And so it's that similar feeling that his energy brings around you. And I saw the word peace. So, really call upon him to help soothe your emotions, to help you to realign to the frequency of peace and clarity and healing, understanding. Okay? All right. Let's take a look at the card for the beginning of the week. Let's just see what's unfolding. Okay. So we have the Justice card, which the numbers in this deck for 8 and 11, justice and strength, have been reversed to sort of like the original placements. And so this is a card, Archangel Raguel, a major arcana card. So this is some kind of theme that may be playing out in our lives this week. But the major arcana themes are really about something that's long and that's sort of arcing over a long period, like a spiritual journey, something that you're working through. And when the Justice card comes up, this could be about balance, and the symbolism of balance is all throughout the tarot, about the polarities and really being aware that we need to to find balance, choices, and reflect and discernment. And the thing is, you're never gonna. It's really never or this balance. It's not about an either or thing, right? Because the two polarities exist for a reason. I mean, you've probably heard me say so many times, without one, how would we know what the quality of the other was? And vice versa. So they must be present, but somehow we have to be more, I'm going to say this word, tolerant of the diversity of these polarities in our lives. And I'm sort of seeing the word liberty written over a chair. And it seems that, with this card, I mean, I don't know if it's a liberty of our democracy or it's just a freedom that you wish to have for yourself, or that you're focused on, or you're coming into a place. I'm seeing the word paralyzed, like you felt paralyzed and you felt stuck, and you've been in a lot of reflection. And what I see is this person is standing up in front of the chair, and the chair is a symbol for me of reflection, being receptive, the feminine energy. But the person is standing up, and the word liberty is written across the knees, and it's like you've been sort of paralyzed or just stuck in this place of just taking it. And maybe I see the word repression, like you've been repressing something, and now you're ready to stand up in your power. Here is where your action creates the balance. And that they're writing the word integrity, so the word liberty and integrity keep interchanging over the knees. That your integrity, this is about choosing, making choices that have integrity in alignment, that is in alignment with your soul. This is where you'll find the freedom. You're not going to find the freedom in terms of trying to find a way to break the resistance. You just have to start focusing on what's in alignment with your truth. You have to just do what has integrity for you. And as you do what has integrity for you, they're writing the word know on one side of the tree. You'll know what your purpose is better. You'll know what your path is. It's the whole thing that why we get stuck and why we feel like we don't know what to do next is because we don't honor our heart. We get these first instinct. We get every time we have a question or there's a problem, and we say what to do, and it comes to us before we say the question what we should do, or like you're on a date and you the first thing that comes to you, no, but you override. And we do this. What do I want to eat? The first thing that comes to you, but you then override. Because we've gotten into a society where we talk about everything that's not good for us. And I'm not saying that that's a bad conversation, but that is something for us to be aware of. We want to, that topic, we need to be aware of it. Not ignore it, but be aware of it. And then focus on the choices that are good for us. Make that the pattern, because that reinforces your knowing. But when you are constantly telling yourself you're not good at something, or this is bad for me, then you are going to create this, what am I trying to say? You're creating this stagnation, or this, you're creating a problem for yourself. You're creating this lack of confidence, this distrust, the doubt, because that's the opposite of knowing. So that's what you're creating. So yes, we want to be aware of what's not good and what's not good for us. But then once you're aware of those things, focus on your priorities, which is to say, what are the things that your heart is convicted about? They don't even worry about whether it's right or not, but your heart is convicted about that. And I'm talking about a conviction that comes from the well-being of your soul. Okay, so I'm seeing several little words here, and one of them faded away. I can't remember what it was. I don't know where the word expert just came up, and maybe just sort of help you to look at the tapestry of your life, like, because maybe you're not seeing the tapestry and some of the details that are in the tapestry. And some of you may need some additional support, sort of counseling around that, or some kind of working with someone who can give you some kind of spiritual insight about that, and how and where are you specifically doing that. Because this is really liberating once you recognize that what you're creating is sort of and putting at the forefront of your mind is all the things wrong. Another thing is like there was a singer I met recently, and amazing, but she said to me, "Oh, I have a lot of tension." It's like, huh? Because I don't hear it. But the thing is, the way that the instruction is given, because it's such a super extraordinary technique, and it's like vocal therapy, and it really relaxes, and it focuses on just sort of really being relaxed, that they're over obsessed about tension. And so now the singer can't think of anything but her tension. And instead of just how much she's freeing herself up, and how much freedom she's now experiencing, and how that freedom is allowing her to be flexible, to do so many things. She's no longer just standing in one place. And so it's a similar thing, similar idea. All right, let's take a look at the card for the middle of the week. Very interesting here. So, before I started this reading, and when I was seeing the moon card and the need for healing, I saw that Jesus had come in and was helping us in this reading to facilitate our healing, letting go, forgiveness, and how does this kind of come in with the context of what we were just talking about in the judgment card, justice card, that we have to manage the balance of our lives. We have to, we have to have that balance of action and reflection, and we have to think about how much do we blame versus how much do we forgive, and blaming is never good for us. But, we can use it as a process, like where we sort of complain or point out things as a process to help us to understand what's happened. But then we have to be able to move to that forgiveness. It's sort of like the kitchen thing again. I don't know why I feel so strong about this kitchen analogy, but feels exactly like what I was trying to say. It's like, you can sit and chew on, all of your regrets, anything that's gone wrong, your complaints, but then you can't go to bed with that. You can't leave that you have to clean it up. You have to put it in perspective. Would be cleaning the dishes and put it away. You have to put it in perspective in the context of compassion and love and healing. And you're not doing it to give somebody else the break. You're doing it to give yourself a break, because if you don't clear up things, then you aren't open, as they were saying at the beginning, to the abundance that's coming out of this, the wisdom that's coming out of this. That wisdom is going to liberate you, is going to attract a signal of abundance towards you. And I don't want you to get so caught up in, oh my God, I gotta clean this up. No. Just focus on loving yourself. Just focus on honoring your heart. That's the way you clean up. You can't go back and dig up the graves of these things. But when they arise to you, when they sort of surface to you, that's the opportunity where you can heal it, become aware, and then create the positive solution. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that when those problems come up, you can't go back and fight those battles over, but they can make you aware of how to handle things. And the way you handle them should be solution oriented, where it doesn't create more problems. And that's what I'm saying. Okay? Now let's take a look at the card for the end of the week. And this just came up on Friday. And we have two eights here. So again, reinforcing that idea of this month of mastery, of attainment, accomplishment. So what this card is just saying, was I've just been trying to say through this reading, is that we have to start putting into practice. So I'll never forget when I was working with a client some years ago, and when I heard myself say it to her and I got off the phone and I started to do it, I had such a leap in my own healing process. And this was, instead of focusing on the problem, to implement the solution. Because a lot of us feel that if we just keep working on that problem, we'll get the solution. You may say, but that's how it works, Barry. And I'll say to you, you think it does. But what actually happened was, because that's the only way the solution come in, because these are two different frequencies. It's like two different phone lines. And you can talk on one, but you can't talk on the other at the same time. You may try it, but you can't hear. You can't, if both of these are talking to you, you can't focus. Your brain can't hear it. You would be distracted. And so what happens is that you keep thinking about how to fix this problem, and then and it's not until there's a breakthrough, like the Tower card. That's what that energy strikes and breaks, disrupts the pattern, disrupts the belief. And what happens is, what slips through is the alternatives, the solution. So what I'm suggesting is to sort of not have to work that hard to get to it, but to immediately recognize that, okay, this is what's I'm aware of now, is something I'm doing that I need to heal. It's been causing me a lot of pain and suffering. It's been causing me to not live to my highest potential, to realize my truth. And that now I'm ready to learn a new habit. And what would that habit be? What would the solution be to that? And that is the fix. That is the solution, better to say. Because now, if you understand that this is my problem, and it's not going to get all fixed in one day, but like anything, if I practice it in, then it will become a part of me automatically. It will become a new and a healthy habit. And so this is where they are guiding you. So some of you may be doing full moon and healing, because this is what the full moon is about, and manifestation work. And if you're feeling like, and this is why the structure, the plan is so important, and the outline of the plan, because it keeps you focused, and it keeps your awareness alert to what the problem is and what the solution should be, because now you have a plan. I mean, your plan may be on this level rather than like the creative one we were talking about before. It may be for a healing and letting go, and where you need to just come up with a plan. I remember, and I got to get back to this, but when I was, I realized that, like, I used to have all these, I would eat like 4 or 5 meals a day, small ones, and then I would be hungry in between. And I really didn't need any other food. I needed water, and make sure I was drinking enough water. And so what I did was I wrote out the schedule, and in between, and I wrote the water times, which is a big block of time in between. And every time I wanted to eat, when I looked at the schedule, I knew that my job was to just go drink some more water until the next meal. When I don't have it written out, it's hard to do that. It's hard to remember it. My brain doesn't want to remember it. But with the plan, I had a strategy to help myself support what I was doing. So this is how this can play an important role in your life. All right, let's take a look at the card from the bottom of the deck. And I don't know, I just saw worrying a lot is what's coming up to me about this card, that you're worrying about something a lot, and you're letting this thing worry you and just sort of take over. And this worry is a practice. That's the reason why we do it, because we haven't thought for ourselves of a distraction to doing that. We haven't thought of a solution, a better way of spending our time when we're worried. Think about it. What is it that you can do to, instead of worrying, what is it that you can do? What activity, what approach could you use to solving that problem that is creating so much worry for you? It may be, for instance, let's just say, if it's something about a bill, or a discrepancy of something, and it makes you nervous. I remember when we had a new landlord and we had all this stuff with the gentrification, moving people out of the buildings and all this stuff. And, any little notice just upset me, just made me, because I don't like confrontation. So, a solution would have been, instead of worrying, pick up the phone, call, ask what the situation is, and take it from there. And you could plan, okay, and if it's this, then this is my yes and my no, setting those boundaries. And if it's this is my yes and my no, meaning this is what I'm willing, this is acceptable. Between that yes and no, these are the things that are acceptable and these are the things that are not. And if it's something that's not acceptable to me, then I would have to say, okay, then I will go speak to, let's just say, a lawyer or something, or whatever. But you have a plan so that you're less afraid when unexpected things crop up. We need a plan that's an alternative to worrying. And I don't think that many of us, we know we hate worrying, but we don't think that there's that we have the power to choose a different habit for worrying. And so we just default to it all the time, right? And what this does is it keeps us from living out our truth. It keeps us from having that spiritual balance. It keeps us from being able to know and discern what we want for ourselves. And that exercise of always knowing what your yes and no is. You can think of it as like separately, this is what I can say yes to, or this is what I can say no to, or this is what I won't. These are my no's. These are the absolute. But if you look at it, it's like in between them, you're basically creating the spectrum between a range on a particular topic or meeting, yes to no. You have a range. And when you go in with sort of a strategy, an idea of what you're willing to negotiate with, then you don't feel so powerless. Okay? And this is just creating a lot of grief in your life. And this is why we need to really let this go. So either you talk to an expert to help you to really manage your stress and to find ways, solutions then allowing yourself to get stressed. That you focus on solutions, ways to deal with it, because managing your life is what reduces the stress. Managing, making no decisions, just sitting there and not doing anything, that's what creates the stress. All right, so I send you lots of love and angel blessings, and I thank you for joining me this week and for hanging in there through the video. And if you'd like an angel reading, please feel free to contact me at theangelschool.com. You can sign up for a session on my services page, where you'll see the different readings and prices. There is a daily, I forget what it's called. It's called some kind of coaching, divine roadmap coaching, and that can be used for anything, for intuition, for working on something. I had years ago, a client had a problem with someone sort of following her, and we worked on that, and energetically. So there's many things. I always trust that whoever comes, the angels have aligned us for a reason. So, and if you haven't joined us for the daily card messages, you can go to the link below, where 5 days a week I do the daily card messages on my Facebook page. And you can also find these things through Twitter. So God bless you and have a beautiful week.